This is
So Vince gets back in, and they're going to give it to Vince. He's going to take a three and hit it.
oh, come on!
An appropriate ending for Paul Pierce.
They say every legend has a final game, but the real ones don't just end. They leave a mark. And farewell games hit different. Sometimes they come with a standing ovation. Sometimes they hit like a gut punch. But some NBA legends didn't tiptoe out. They torched the court on the way out the door. They turned farewells into statements. And they didn't just say goodbye. They said, "Remember me." This is part 2 of the NBA's most unforgettable goodbyes. And these exits, they're louder than most careers. To start us off is Magic Johnson. Some legends announce their retirement with a farewell tour, and others just vanish into the tunnel after one final playoff run. But Magic's story doesn't follow the usual script. After being diagnosed with HIV and stepping away from the game in 1991, most people thought that was it. Done, over. The end of a brilliant, revolutionary career. But he had other plans. At 36, after 4 full seasons away from the league, that's minus the Dream Team domination in '92, he made an unexpected return to the Lakers midway through the 95-96 season. And he wasn't just a nostalgia act. Magic averaged 14.6 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 6.9 assists coming off the bench, no less. And once he rejoined the squad, the Lakers went 22-10 the rest of the way. He even dropped a triple-double just 6 games into his return, then casually followed it up with a 30-point night. In Game 4, Magic played his final NBA minutes, scoring 2 of 8 from the field with 8 rebounds and 5 assists. Not his flashiest game, but it still had flashes of what made him Magic. He wasn't the same player who used to dominate finals games with one no-look pass after another, but in his final chapter, he still found ways to impact the game even after life told him he couldn't.
The season is over. Magic Johnson with Rudy.
Then there is Big Fundamental, the silent assassin, the guy who won everything without ever saying anything. 5 championships, 2 MVPs, and 3 finals MVPs. And when it came time for his last game,
It also tells you how hard it is to win in this league.
no speeches, no spotlight, just one more game of doing what he always did, winning basketball the right way. In 2016, Duncan and the Spurs were locked in a tough playoff battle with OKC. In Game 6 of the Western Conference Semis, Duncan tried to will his team one step further, dropping 19 points on 7 of 14 shooting in what would be his final performance.
Duncan, blocked.
No theatrics, just a quiet exit from one of the loudest careers in league history. And when he walked off that floor for the last time,
Could have cut it to.
he left behind a legacy no one could touch. But for Larry Bird, the ending came with a quiet, stubborn fight against his own body. Bird and Magic Johnson will always be mentioned in the same breath. College rivals turned NBA titans, trading blows throughout the 80s, and splitting championships like heavyweight champs. But while Magic's exit was sudden, Bird's was a slow, painful unraveling. By the time the 1991-92 season rolled around, Larry Legend's back was giving him hell. He could barely walk some days, much less run. But even in pain, Bird still managed to average 20.2 points, 9.6 rebounds, and 6.8 assists over 45 games. He didn't look like a guy who was breaking down, but make no mistake, he was. In the playoffs against Cleveland, he could barely stay upright. The first 2 games, he was out there, but not really there. Limited minutes, limited movement, and 2 losses. But in Game 4, Bird gave one final push. He scored 12 points on 6 of 9 shooting, but the Cavaliers had too much firepower, pulling away by 18. This wasn't the storybook ending people hoped for, But Bird wasn't wired for theatrics. He was wired for toughness. Even on his worst days, he could still dial it back to MVP form like he did on March 15, 1992, when he torched the Blazers for 49 points, 14 rebounds, 12 assists, 4 steals, and a block in a throwback triple-double. That night was vintage Larry. One last reminder of who he was. But the very last time Bird put on a uniform wasn't in Boston. It was in Barcelona, suiting up for the Dream Team. Battling through pain, surrounded by greatness, and helping Team USA win gold. He saved his goodbye for the world stage. After that, he walked away. Not because he wanted to, but because his body finally left him no choice. And other legends simply take a bow, and that's exactly how Scottie Pippen made his quiet exit. By the time 2003 rolled around, Pippen had nothing left to prove. 6 championships, countless defensive masterclasses, a career defined by doing everything and doing it next to the greatest of all time. But while Michael Jordan had the spotlight farewell in Washington, Pippen returned to where it all began, Chicago. No banners, no dramatic send-off, just one more run with the city that made him a legend. At 39 years old, his body couldn't keep up anymore. He appeared in only 23 games, averaging 5.9 points, 3 rebounds, and 2.2 assists. And in his final appearance against the Seattle Supersonics, he played just 8 minutes in a blowout loss. Just a quiet final walk off the court. But here's the thing. Scottie's final game doesn't need to be remembered because his career already is. To this day, Bulls fans don't talk about the 8-point loss in his last appearance. They talk about the 6 banners, the relentless defense, the point-forward creativity, the sacrifices, the toughness, the swagger, the championships. He didn't need a Hollywood ending because his legacy was already set in stone. However, not many players get to walk off the court for the last time with the whole world watching. But Wilt Chamberlain left it on basketball's biggest stage. After dominating the NBA like no one before or since.
Havlicek runs around his defender, and
Wilt's final chapter came in the 1973 NBA Finals, suiting up for the Los Angeles Lakers one last time. By then, Chamberlain had already built his legendary resume: 7 scoring titles, 4 MVPs, 2 championships, and stats that still make people's jaws drop 50 years later. At 36, Wilt wasn't putting up 50-point games anymore, but he was still a force. That season, he averaged 14.8 points and 19.2 rebounds, leading the Lakers to 60 wins and another trip to the finals. There, they faced the New York Knicks for the 3rd time in 4 years, the final showdown of an epic rivalry. The Knicks took control of the series early, and in Game 5, Chamberlain knew this might be his final stand. He dropped 23 points and 21 rebounds, leaving everything he had left on the floor. But it wasn't enough. The Knicks would seal the series and the title, and just like that, Wilt Chamberlain walked away. He sat out the 1973-74 season and never returned. Next, we've got Karl Malone. For 18 straight seasons, Malone was the engine in Utah. 2-time MVP, 14-time All-Star, and the 2nd leading scorer in NBA history. He powered the Jazz to the finals 3 times, and each time, the story ended the same way. So close, but not quite. So, in 2003, at 40, Malone made one final push. He left Utah and joined the ultimate super team, the Los Angeles Lakers, with Shaq, Kobe, and Gary Payton chasing that elusive championship. And for a while, it looked like the stars had finally aligned. The Lakers stormed into the 2004 NBA Finals, but waiting for them was a Detroit Pistons squad that didn't care about super teams. They came to smother them. In Game 4, Malone played just 22 minutes before a lingering knee injury forced him to the bench for good. He finished with 2 points and didn't suit up for Game 5 watching from the sidelines as the Pistons finished the job and crushed the Lakers' title hopes. That would be the last time Karl Malone ever put on an NBA uniform. No final shot, no curtain call, just heartbreak at the end of a Hall of Fame career that never got the one thing it truly deserved, a ring. But even without it, Malone's legacy was already untouchable. He may have walked away without a title, but he left the game as one of the most dominant power forwards the league has ever seen. And then there is Dirk Nowitzki. He didn't just change the Mavericks, he changed the game. He was the first of his kind, a 7-foot sniper with a jumper as smooth as a guard's, a one-legged fadeaway that defenders still see in their nightmares, and a loyalty to Dallas that never wavered in 21 seasons. And in 2019, the legend from Wurzburg gave fans exactly what they hoped for. One final reminder of who he was. The night before his last game, Dirk dropped 30 points in front of a roaring Dallas crowd, soaking in every second of the love. But it wasn't over yet. One more game remained. His farewell tour stopped in San Antonio, where the playoff-bound Spurs were ready, but respectfully. The game didn't matter in the standings. It mattered because Dirk was still standing. He played over 31 minutes, scored 20 points, grabbed 10 rebounds, and gave us a vintage double-double on 8 of 21 shooting. The Mavs lost the game, but no one cared. That night wasn't about the scoreboard. It was about the send-off. Dirk left the game the same way he played it, on his own terms, and still making you lean back in your seat every time he launched that fadeaway. His final shot didn't win a title, but it did win closure. One last time, the quiet superstar let his game do the talking.
But it's been an amazing ride, and thank you guys so much for coming out.
Hakim Olajuwon deserved a storybook finish. Two-time NBA champ, two-time Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, all-time leader in blocks, and still, decades later, one of the most respected big men to ever touch a basketball. But his final chapter didn't come in Houston, didn't come with confetti or a championship. It came in Toronto. In the 2001-02 season, after 17 unforgettable years with the Rockets, Hakim suited up for the Raptors for one last run. At 39, the dream was still graceful, but the mileage was real. He averaged 7.1 points and 6 rebounds across 61 games, serving as a veteran presence on a young playoff team. Then came the postseason. First round, Detroit Pistons, a 5-game dogfight. In Game 5, Olajuwon came off the bench and did what he always did, competed. He dropped 8 points and grabbed 4 rebounds, trying to will his team forward one last time. But the Pistons edged out a 3-point win. And that was it. Just a quiet end for one of the loudest legacies the NBA has ever seen. Because when you've already mastered the game, when your footwork is still studied, your defense still feared, and your resume speaks louder than any goodbye ever could, you don't need a storybook ending. Because when it comes to NBA legends, the final game isn't always about stats. It's about legacy. And every one of these stories proves that even the end can be unforgettable. But we're not done yet. If you haven't seen how this all started, don't just sit there. Hit play on part 1 of this series, The Last Games of NBA Legends, and witness the first wave of iconic exits that set the tone for it all.